In this episode of Retiring Today.
Your retirement shouldn't be a guessing game.
And we'll talk about what you can and cannot bet on in retirement.
Right now on Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. In this episode, we're talking about the fact that you don't want to leave your retirement up to chance. I'm here with Loren Merkel. He's a certified financial planner, and Abby Huntrod. She's an investment advisor here at Merkle Retirement Planning. And guys, let's see, Russian roulette, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Retirement Misfortune. We're going to have a little fun with that in just a minute. You'll see us spinning a wheel. But it's all to basically tell people that retirement, Loren, does not have to be a guessing game or a game of Russian roulette.
What most pre-retirees figure out as they approach retirement is that there's way too many moving parts. There's way more moving parts than what they ever imagined. But all those moving parts, there is a piece for them to fit within your overall plan. And that's really the challenge. You need to take all these different moving parts and put them together in a comprehensive, cohesive way to make sense out of this, what feels like oftentimes a Russian roulette type of decision tree around retirement.
And Abby, that's part of what you do. People come in and they've got maybe a lot of different investments or investments in different places or lots of questions or even anxieties about retirement. But the fun part is kind of taking some of that anxiety away.
Oh, absolutely. Just to see the weight lifted off their shoulders after we put together the comprehensive plan that tells them, you know, you're okay. We've planned for all these different contingencies. Yeah, life might throw some uncertain things at you at times, but it's been accounted for in our written plan, and that's what people are excited about.
Yeah, and speaking of that written plan, Loren, you've kind of given the plan a name. I mean, you've been doing this for a little while. You've kind of seen what works when it comes to retirement planning, and you've put together the Merkle retirement method.
Yeah, after so many years of really identifying the top concerns of most retirees, and the objectives of what they're trying to accomplish, what we've done is boiled that down into 5 top components, which we call the Merkle retirement method. And what this does is it just helps make this planning process a lot easier to consume. Simplicity when it comes to these types of complex topics is really a good thing, and the Merkle retirement method really does that for retirees.
Okay, so at the top of the show, I mentioned Wheel of Fortune, Russian roulette, and some of those things. So we have a visual aid that we want to use today to really talk about some of the retirement misfortunes that people come into the offices here at Merkle Retirement Planning all the time and say, I thought it was going to be like this. I took a chance. I looked at my retirement and here's what I thought. And sometimes those assumptions need to be broken down by financial professionals and people that have helped retire people hundreds of times. So Abby and Loren are going to kind of break down some of these assumptions as I spin what we're going to call the retirement wheel of misfortune. Guys, Vanna White? No? Yes?
Vanna White,
no?
very much.
Not even close, but it'll give us an idea of what some of these assumptions can be in retirement. So I'm taking my first spin here, Abby and Loren on the wheel. You know, I should have probably pre-spun, but I guess I got all the way around. So this one says working forever. So sometimes when people come and sit down with you guys, they're just like, oh, I don't need a retirement plan. I'm going to work till the day I die. And Abby and Loren, you guys find that that's really not true.
Well, not only do we find that in our personal experience, but there's also been a lot of different studies that come to that same conclusion, where you feel like you'll be able to work part-time or full-time up until age 70 or even beyond. And the truth of the matter is that many people, not because they don't want to, but many people just cannot do it. The body gives out on them, and some of the health issues set in, and working when you're 70 plus for many people is just not an option.
Okay, let's spin the wheel again and see what else comes up here. This one says spouse's income. So Abby, what's the assumption here, and maybe what's the actual truth?
Sure. So a lot of people depend on one wage earner within the household, and that's their plan. You know, that spouse is going to work for a long time. Maybe they have a pension. You know, the one spouse has a pension, and that's what the spouse that maybe stayed at home with kids or for whatever reason didn't work is depending on in retirement. And that's okay. That's not a bad plan, because everybody, you know, has a little different situation that they've dealt with, you know, throughout their working years. But it's important to account for that within the plan. So you want to make sure that you're accounting for any survivorship situations. So as you're making those pension decisions, you know, making sure that if the wage earning spouse should, pass away, maybe unexpectedly, that you've put a plan in place that the surviving spouse is going to be okay, is going to have enough income coming in to be able to cash flow whatever lifestyle it is that they're wanting to maintain. And the other thing to take into account is maybe there's a need for life insurance. If there's not a substantial amount of investable assets that would be left behind to a surviving spouse, then that would be a good situation to evaluate what those life insurance needs might be, whether or not you're adequately insured to make sure that your spouse is taken care of should something happen to you.
And also with one working spouse, that will impact the level of Social Security benefit as a household, as a family that they do receive. And that survivorship option becomes absolutely essential for the spouse then that stayed at home or didn't work, because that spouse who didn't work does not have a substantial or maybe any type of standalone Social Security benefit. So all that needs to be modeled out within the plan, and it's also oftentimes beneficial to say what happens in the model, in the plan, what happens if that spouse does pass away? Where's the income going to come from? How is it going to impact the surviving spouse short-term, long-term? And that's going to help you make some of the decisions around the life insurance and the Social Security strategies and all that kind of stuff as well.
Exactly.
Okay, let's spin the wheel again. Spouse's income, we just went over that. Taxes, it's inevitable. Taxes are inevitable, but what assumptions, Loren, do people have about taxes, and what's kind of the reality?
One of the assumptions that we hear all the time is we're going to wait until we start implementing effective tax planning strategies until we retire. That we're going to somehow miraculously be in a lower tax bracket in retirement than what we're in right now. And for some individuals, some people, that is true. But for many people who did not expect to be in a higher tax bracket or the same tax bracket in retirement, it can really cut into their spendable income. And after all, that's what most retirees are concerned about when it comes to income, is how much can they spend. It's not about what you make, it's about what you get to keep, and it's about what you get to spend. And that's why tax planning needs to be addressed as soon as you possibly can in the retirement planning cycle, to make sure you're implementing strategies along the way with opportunities that present themselves as they come. So when you retire and you have income coming in, there's not this big surprise and say, whoops, now I'm in a higher tax bracket. And by the way, what we're talking about here is this is if tax brackets stay the same. And our thought is that tax brackets are probably going to increase. So what happens if they do increase? How does that cut into your spendable income as well?
Okay, ready to spin again?
Let's go.
I wish we were buying a vowel or something. It would be fun if there was an actual cash prize or something. Okay, here we go. Care by kids. So the assumption here, Abby, is that, oh, my children will take care of me. I don't need a plan, but that's not the reality.
And we do hear this all the time, and that's not necessarily to say it's a bad plan, because it can work. But what I think is easy to dismiss is the burden that can place on those children in the future. I was reminded of this. I sat down with a client of ours recently. We'll call her Donna for today's purposes. But Donna was sharing with me that she had recently found herself in this situation where she was taking care of her aging mom, and she was the only one still alive and around to do it. She had an older brother that passed away a few years earlier, and her mother had been widowed for many years. And so she was the only one. But to make matters worse, she actually also had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so she was bearing the burden of that on top of worrying about her mother. Now, arguably, the stress of taking care of her mom could potentially and probably negatively impacts her health and, worsens her own situation. But on top of that, now she's worried about predeceasing her mother, and then there really is no one to take care of her. So now that might be an extreme example, but it certainly happens, and that's why it's important to plan for contingencies in those types of situations.
Yeah, that's a great story, and think about all the times people come in here and they talk about this long-term care need, and what most people say is they want to make sure that they are not a burden for their kids. And that when it comes to this kind of topic, that is their primary concern for many people. And so it's something that needs to be planned for, and within the plan. So in the event that something unexpected happens, because we all know life happens, which is very unexpected along the way, then we can adequately adjust on the fly, and there's no big surprises that are going to ultimately derail your retirement.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue spinning the wheel of retirement when Retiring Today continues.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it, and leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes? That's where we come in. We are Merkle Retirement Planning, your personal retirement planners. From investments to tax reduction strategies. With our Merkle Retirement Method, we can help you reach your retirement goals. You worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary visit, simply contact us today. Merkle Retirement Planning.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm here in front of the wheel. This wheel represents sort of retirement misfortune. We're talking about some of the assumptions that people make about retirement, and then we're kind of busting those retirement assumptions with Loren, Merkel, and Abby Huntrods. And I'm going to spin this wheel. I'm going to spin this wheel right now so we can work on talking about some of those retirement assumptions. And this one is Social Security income. You're looking at Loren, Merkel, Abby Huntrods right now. And guys, the assumption is that Social Security will replace my income when I retire.
This is a common thing that we hear all the time, and the reason is pretty much everyone has Social Security, so I think it's a natural tendency for people to plan on that being a major component of their retirement income. However, it was never intended to replace 100% of your working income, and in fact, at most 30 or 40%. So relying solely on Social Security for your retirement income is not a good plan.
Let's spin again. 4% rule. So the 4% rule, Loren set that up for us. What is it?
This 4% rule falls into this category of general rules of thumb, which a lot of people, even advisors, surprisingly enough, will follow a lot of these rules of thumb. The 4% rule specifically has varied over time. It used to be the 5% rule, now it's the 3% rule. The reason it keeps changing is these general rules of thumb generally don't work out. What the 4% rule means is that let's take your portfolio balance, let's call it 100,000. And you take 4% of that, that's how much you can live on from an income standpoint, and not have to worry about running out of money or having a very low probability of running out of money prior to running out of time. The problem is that market fluctuations can really eat into your portfolio. At the same time, you're still taking 4%. So 4% of 100,000, that's $4,000 a year. But what happens, we go through this next recession, your 100,000 drops down below to 70,000. And now you're taking 4% of 70,000. So what that means is your income that you're using to live on to generate this lifestyle that you love so much has decreased, because 4% of 70,000 is a lot different than 4% of 100,000. Or you are forced to take a higher percentage than 4%, which means it's going to exacerbate the decline of your overall portfolio. So the 4% rule is just a general rule that generally should not be followed, and it needs to be much more customized to your situation, your lifestyle, what it is you're trying to accomplish, and the resources that you have at your disposal.
Let's spin again. Come on, $1. Cryptocurrencies. What kind of assumptions do people sometimes make about those?
Well, cryptocurrencies is one of these types of asset classes that can be used as a diversifier. And hopefully, if you're engaging in the use of a cryptocurrency within your overall investment portfolio, that is exactly how you're using it. As a very small piece of the portfolio, maybe to have some fun, very speculative. Nobody really knows where these cryptocurrencies are going to end up long term. But if you want to have a little bit of fun and see the high rises and the big falls, then you can enjoy your time.
Volatility is your thing.
Volatility, that's what I'm looking for. What you don't want to do is put an overwhelming amount of your portfolio. You don't want to risk your retirement based on something like a cryptocurrency. And so, unfortunately, some people are putting way too much of their life savings or their monthly dollar amount they have allocated going towards their life savings into something like a cryptocurrency, hoping to hit that big home run. Home runs, when it comes to your retirement, when it comes to your life savings, is never a good thing to go for. If you think about baseball, these big time home run hitters, what do they do a lot of time also?
Strike out.
They strike out. And when it comes to your life savings and your retirement, we do not want to strike out.
And we don't want to leave it up to chance. So here are some of the chances that people sometimes bet on. The next one is the economy. What do people kind of bet on sometimes when it comes to the economy?
This is one thing that is really of interest and really has been now for the last 4 to 5 years, because this economy has been so strong. And because this economy has been so strong, the markets have also been strong and have really been on a consistent elevated route for the last 10 years since the last major recession of 2008. So people, whenever we go through this type of time frame, people sometimes get really lax with their investments. They kind of set it, forget the amount of risk that they're taking in their portfolio. Or what we see is the asset classes like stocks that have done really well versus asset classes like bonds that have not done so well recently. The allocation percentage gets out of line, which means you're taking more risk than what you intended, more risk than what you ever needed to. And when these equities, when this economy goes back down, equities will go with it, and you lose 30-50% of your life savings in a short period of time. That ultimately can derail your retirement, which is not a good thing.
Okay, we'll continue to spin the wheel here. Here we go. So good health. So you don't want to bet on good health in retirement. Why is that?
Yeah, and not even so much as betting on good health, but underestimating the expense of healthcare in retirement is something that we see all the time. Fidelity does a study every year that estimates what a married couple age 65 will spend on average over the next 20 years of their lifetime in retirement. And the most recent number that they came out with was $280,000. So that sounds like an enormous amount in a lump sum. Obviously, that's spread out throughout the years. But when you're not used to paying those types or that high of expense in healthcare, that can derail things in a hurry.
Okay, spin again. I'm gonna start just having to, they don't let you do this on Wheel of Fortune, I don't think, but I get to do this for the sake of the show. What else do we need to go over, guys? Economy, Social Security, spending less. Oh, spending less. You can't bet on spending less in retirement.
Yeah, we hear it a lot. We hear that that's the plan, is that people are going to cut back once they retire. But the reality is you're going to have more time, and you probably don't want to retire and sit around and do nothing. You want to go and do the things that you enjoy doing. That's the point of retirement. So spending less, probably not realistic. What we often will talk about or kind of refer to are the 3 different decades of retirement, and that's the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And what we find is that spending really fluctuates throughout those 3 different phases. So the go-go years are the years that you're younger and healthy and you have energy, so you're probably traveling more and doing the fun things that you want to do. And then you get to the slow-go years, and maybe you don't have as much energy or your health has started to decline, and you might not spend as much throughout that decade. But what we often find is that in the slow-go years is when those healthcare costs creep in. So a lot of times long-term care expenses, or you're just spending a lot more on a variety of medical procedures. So
Yeah, usually what we see is that in the early years of your retirement, you're spending the money on what you want to do, all the fun activities. But in the latter years of your retirement, if your health is an issue, you're spending money not on the things you want to, but on the things you have to support yourself from a healthcare standpoint.
Okay, guys, we have one more thing on the wheel of kind of things people could bet on in retirement that we haven't hit. So just pretend I landed right on home. So what do people sometimes bet on in retirement when it comes to their home?
When we talk about betting on your home, there's this thing called a reverse mortgage. And this is becoming more common that people want to talk about. And by the way, the reverse mortgages, the industry has changed quite a bit from even the last 10 years, which does make it more attractive for some people to use that home asset in their retirement. So looking at a reverse mortgage, investigating that as far as does that make sense to you, does it not make sense to you, that could be one thing that you could take a look at to use that equity in your advantage and still be able to stay in your home throughout retirement. Where some people fall into the misfortune, especially in this market, this housing market that we're in right now, is they want to downsize. And unfortunately, based on the housing market right now, downsizing doesn't necessarily mean down spending. Right? It's not meaning that they're decreasing the amount. In fact, many people, in order to sell their current house and go into a ranch style where it's one level, less space to maintain and take care of and fix when things go wrong, it's actually costing them more. So many retirees are faced with wanting to decrease their space, but having to increase their budget and maybe even ending up with a mortgage.
Loren and Abby did a great job of talking about some of the things you can't bet on in retirement. But when we return, we'll talk about how a comprehensive plan can help get you to and through retirement.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkel Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. In this episode, we've been talking about the things you cannot bet on in retirement. I'm here with Loren Merkel, Certified Financial Planner, and Abby Huntrod's Investment Advisor here at Merkel Retirement Planning. And there's kind of a wrap up of the show and the things that you can't bet on retirement. And Abby, one of them has to do with Social Security.
Sure, because Social Security affects almost everyone. We think that it's really important to emphasize and talk about the importance of not relying solely on Social Security for your retirement income. It was never intended to replace that full amount that you're normally used to living on, and so that's definitely something that you should avoid in retirement as well.
Loren, what else?
The other thing is that if you're watching the show and all these topics that we're talking about, if they're a little bit confusing, a little bit daunting to comprehend, you're not alone, so don't feel bad about it. And what you really need to do is if you feel like you need help with these topics, make sure that you consult a qualified retirement planner. There's a lot of different types of advisors out there. There's a lot of really good advisors out there, but I think it's important to know that there's different types of advisors who do different things. There's a lot of accumulation specialists out there, and if you have an advisor and your advisor's not talking to you about these concepts that we're talking about, it's not the advisor's fault. That's just not what the advisor does. So when you're talking about retirement planning and planning for the rest of your life, of how you're going to get the income, how you're going to increase your spending, mitigate taxes, how you're going to address the long-term care problem that many retirees are facing, that's when you need to enlist the help of a retirement planner where that is all that they do. So find the advisor for your fit. If you're 30 years old, find an accumulation advisor. Pre-retirement, retirement, go for a retirement planner.
And another great place to talk about or learn more about all of these concepts are the Passport to Retirement classes. Lauren, what are they?
The Passport to Retirement classes are classes that we hold around the metro area at all these different universities, and we talk about the 5 components of the retirement plan, the Merkel retirement method. The key concerns, the key objectives that pre-retirees and retirees are trying to accomplish, like income and tax planning and healthcare and long-term care planning, legacy planning, and then finally investment planning piece.
Okay, Abby, who should come to the Passport to Retirement classes? Who's a good candidate?
Sure. The classes are designed to be for individuals that are, kind of in that retirement red zone, so on the doorstep to retirement within 5 or 10 years, or potentially even already retired, because a lot of times we actually sit down with people who have been retired, but maybe there were some things that they could tweak or improve within their plan, or they've never had a written plan done, even though they are already retired. So I would say within 10 years of retirement or already retired.
Okay, and the Passport to Retirement classes are free classes. You can sign up several ways. One is by texting the number on your screen. Just text Passport, and a member of the Merkle Retirement Planning team will reach out to you and get you signed up for one of several classes that are held throughout the metro. Also, you can check out our website. You can sign up right there on the website that's on your screen, or you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can pick up a telephone, a cell phone, a rotary phone, I don't know, a phone booth, and give a call to the offices, and somebody will get you scheduled for a Passport to Retirement class. Lauren, they're 2.5 hours long. You use a workbook. You talk about a lot of stuff. What's one of the most fun parts for you about teaching those Passport to Retirement classes?
Well, one of the most fun parts for me is you just never know what kind of questions you're going to receive, because it's a very interactive class where we do enlist the questions that you have. So come armed with the top questions that you have about retirement planning, and we'll try to address as many of those as we can in class as well.
And people do have a lot to talk about when it comes to retirement planning, and so do we right here on this show. It's Retiring Today with Loren Merkel, and we thank you for watching.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful week.
We
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night,